let people in. I am Leslie Burry. I'm Director of Admission for Research College of Nursing. So I'm excited to see you all at our MSN virtual information session. So we're going to share lots of good information with you tonight. As we get started, I wanted to let everyone know that we are going to be recording this. So we can share it with other interested students who were not able to attend. We do ask that you mute yourself for the presentation itself, and then we can certainly do, you can open it up when we get to the question and answer. If you have questions that you think of as we're going through, please don't hesitate to put them in the chat box. And we've got some current students, and Susan Christian Arnold, who is our student recruiter, will be managing that chat box. So we're going to introduce you to Research College of Nursing. We'll look at the Research College of Nursing mission and values and vision. We're going to let you meet representatives of our 3 MSN tracks. We'll talk about the admission and financial aid information. And then we have students who are going to share their experiences at Research College of Nursing, and well, with Research College of Nursing, I should say, because they're not actually all here, since 2 of our programs are distance. And we will have time for Q&A at the end. So the slide that we have up is just a little bit of insight into what Research College of Nursing is all about. Our mission is, above all else, Research College of Nursing is committed to empowering people by educating nurses, developing leaders, and caring for our communities. So everything we do at Research College of Nursing is centered around our mission. So when our faculty are developing courses, and when we're looking at community service opportunities, it's all about making sure that we are addressing the mission for Research College of Nursing. Our vision is to be the college of choice for nurses who desire to lead and practice service and advocacy. And then our values are an acronym that is I Learn. So integrity, leadership, excellence, advocacy, respect, and nursing. So that tells you a little bit about Research College of Nursing. We are very service oriented, but above all else, we are educating nurses for the future. We have 3 MSN tracks, and you'll hear about those in a little bit. Our executive practice and healthcare leadership track, nurse educator, and family nurse practitioner. So those are the 3 options. A little bit about career outlook, and many of you may already know this, and that's why you're here, but there will be a lot of growth in nurses, opportunities for nurses with advanced practice. So you can see that the types of growth that we'll see over the next several years, and the salaries that go along with that. And I think it's a great opportunity to expand your career, but also your ability to make a little bit more money in your practice. So I want to start by introducing Dr. Rebecca Cahill. Dr. Cahill is the track coordinator for our executive practice and healthcare leadership track, and I am going to let her take it from here. Dr. Cahill.
Hello, everyone. I'm glad you joined us this evening. I'm going to briefly talk about the Executive Practice and Healthcare Leadership track, which we call EPHL around here. Sometimes I have to stop and think what all the words are. This is a track that's offered 100% online. So any student from a state that we're approved to educate in can be in this track. You never have to come to campus. I do have a lot of students at graduation time. They'll come for graduation, and they will come to campus to see what we look like, or they're in town for some other reason, and they'll stop by to see what we look like. The track is 36 credit hours, which includes 360 hours of clinical experience And that clinical experience is done in your last calendar year of the program. And it's with a nurse leader in an area of interest to you. So it could be a nurse leader in a hospital, such as a CNO or a director, or a nurse manager if that's your first step. Or it could be a nurse leader in an insurance company or in a community health organization. The options are pretty limitless. It's kind of what you're interested in. Most students complete the program in 2 to 2.5 years. And right now, all my students are full-time employees. And there's a link, and I'm sure they're probably going to share these slides with you after the program, where you can actually see more detail on the courses found in these slides. And I'll have you go ahead and switch to the next slide. So I'm going to kind of give instead of reading this to you, because I know you all can read or you wouldn't be here for a graduate program, but basically anywhere that care is happening, there are nurse leaders. And the nurse leaders are behind the scenes. They're ensuring that the resources, the infrastructure, and the guidance is available to promote quality healthcare delivery. And so you'll have, as I said, anywhere on the care spectrum, you'll have nurse leaders, and that's folks from long-term care, acute care, primary care settings, intensive outpatient settings, community health settings, and in the hospital. You know, a lot of people think of the chief nursing officer as the executive role. There are other executive roles for nurses. These days, typically your VPs of quality are nurses, and that's the track that I came up through. Many times chief operating officers will be nurses. You'll have nurses leading programs such as stroke and trauma and sepsis and a variety of things like that. So there's the options are pretty much limitless. It doesn't have to be necessarily I'm managing nurses on a unit. That's probably one of the tougher jobs in nursing leadership, I will actually say. But there are a lot of different options for people that are interested in pursuing a leadership track. So basically, if you enjoy problem solving, planning, organizing, creative thinking, leading, inspiring people, this could be a track for you.
Thank you, Dr. Cahill. So next, I'd like to introduce Dr. Karen Roberts. Dr. Roberts is the track coordinator for our nurse educator track.
Thank you, Leslie. And I'm glad to be able to talk with you all tonight. I'm glad you were able to attend. I'm Dr. Karen Roberts, and I am responsible for the nurse educator track. Our course is well, let me first clarify what we mean by nurse educator. There's various types of nurse educators, and there is a huge shortage of nurse educators in academia. So this is a good time to become a nurse educator. But there are also professional development educators who work with nurses employed in healthcare settings. So we actually have 2 tracks in our nurse educator program. We have a track for academic nurse educators who are intending to work with a college or a university, as well as professional development educators who will be working in some type of patient care setting with nurses who are providing care and are either orienting or onboarding or continuing to practice new skills and new competencies. And so it's an exciting area that can be you can be a nurse educator too, not just in a school. Our courses are 100% online also. So you can take this program from just about anywhere in the country. And there's 34 credit hours of what we call competency infused coursework. And by that, I mean that each course that you take, you will learn different competencies that you'll be able to use upon graduation. So you'll receive the theory in a course, you'll receive the opportunity to practice in a course, and then there are 3 practicum courses that you can take at an academic or a hospital close to where you live. for a total of 180 hours, but those give you the opportunity to actually work with a nurse educator in either the academic or professional development setting. So by the time you graduate, you have a list of competencies that you've had the opportunity to learn and practice. So that's one thing that makes our program unique, is that we do ensure that you graduate with a skill set that makes you very marketable. And as I said, you have a choice of academic or professional development, which used to be called staff development, but it's now professional development education. And our program is 2 years if you want to go full time, and 3 years for those who are probably working a little bit more and would like to do it in 3 years. I actually have some 2-year pro students who are working a weekend option. And so that fits in nicely with this program. The courses are 8 weeks in the nurse educator track, so that makes it a little bit more flexible. Allows you to take 2 courses per semester, expediting your time through the program. And again, just provides a little more flexibility in the curriculum. There is a link that is here that you will have access to when we're, with you'll get this PowerPoint when this is over. Is that correct, Leslie? Yes. Okay. All right. Next slide, please. So, what is the nurse educator role in nursing? Well, if you've ever been in nursing school, you know kind of what nurse educators do. Nope. Go back. We educate nurses who want to be, our students that want to be prepared to be a nursing faculty, clinical lab instructor. Some nurse educators, they primarily teach or by choice teach in the clinical lab, or simulation, or in clinical settings. There's also professional development nurse and patient educators. And the role is based on the science of teaching and learning. And that's one of the first courses that you take as a nurse educator, is what is the science of teaching and learning? How do we evidence-based teaching? You all were taught when you were in school that your practice should be evidence-based. So should it be when you're a nurse educator. So we then have evidence-based instructional strategies that you'll learn and can practice when you get out into a work setting. Teaching in online and simulated environments. That's one of our courses, and it's a really wonderful, fun course because we've really had to go a lot to simulation with the COVID mandates. So that's a very marketable course to have had some experience in. Curriculum development, as well as outcome assessment, and organizational and regulatory dynamics. That course is developed for the academic nurse educator, as well as, in particular, the professional development nurse educator. Because in the hospitals, you know that there are a lot of organizational and regulatory dynamics and accreditation and all that you have to be is a part of your role. So in relation to a few statistics, the AACN, American Association of Colleges of Nursing, reported that almost 65,000 qualified applicants, we're talking about potential nursing students, qualified applicants were turned away from nursing schools last year due to a shortage of nurse educators. Now that's sad. We have a nurse shortage, but we can't really fix the nurse shortage to a certain degree because we don't have enough nurse educators. So that's why I say this is a really great time to become a nurse educator. And the NLN faculty survey identified that 82% of schools across the country are actively recruiting faculty. So whether you're in academia or whether you're in professional development, because I know HCA has taken a position that they're going to need a lot more professional development educators so that they are more unit-based than centrally located. And their role is going to be largely competency focused in relation to the nurses that they're going to be working with. So moving through this curriculum that is competency infused and has a special subtract for professional development nurse educators is good for both the, depending on whichever way you want to go, academic or professional development. So I'm glad to see all of you here, and I hope some of you are interested in one of these two roles in nursing education. And thank you for your time. Leslie?
Thank you, Dr. Roberts. Now I'd like to introduce Ashley Thill, and Ashley is one of our current family nurse practitioner students, and so she is going to give you an overview of our F&P track. Ashley?
Hi, everyone. Welcome. I'm also not going to read word for word over this. I mean, you guys know what a nurse practitioner is and their role, but our program is you can either go full or part-time. Depending on that, it'll be, a 2 to 3 year track. Typically, they do recommend that you scale back to part-time working when you especially start your clinical hours, because as you can see, 720 clinical hours is quite a bit to fit into a year. And then I do believe, Leslie, you can correct me if I'm wrong, but the coursework is all online except for one class that you do have to come to campus for. I believe they just meet once a week.
Well, actually, it's the last 4 classes. So advanced health assessment, and then the 2 practicum, and the 2 clinical and the practicum course. They do all have some on ground.
There you go. So definitely keep that in mind when you're trying to figure out if you should work full or part-time or go full or part-time in the program. Next slide. And then, like I said, the nurse practitioner's role, you can work in a variety of settings, acute care, outpatient in a clinic setting. We treat, assess, diagnose, work under the direct supervision of a physician. There's lots of different avenues you can take being a nurse practitioner. Leslie, I don't know if there's any more. I'll give it back to you.
Thank you, Ashley. So now I'd like to just tell you a little bit about the process. Hopefully some of you are now asking, how do I apply? How can I get into Research College of Nursing? We do require that you have a BSN from an accredited nursing school. So CCNE, ACEN, those accrediting bodies are listed there. If you are applying to the Family Nurse Practitioner program, you do need to have both a Missouri and a Kansas license, just because we do have clinical sites on both sides. And then nurse educator and the EPHL students just need to have a license in the state where they're going to do their practicum. So the nurse educator and EPHL do have a rolling admission process. And what that means is that you can start any semester. So if you want to start this fall, you would need to apply by July 1st, December 1 for spring. As files are completed, Dr. Cahill, Dr. Roberts will review those. They'll contact you to set up an interview. And so that admissions process happens as you are completing your application. And usually we can, from start to finish, 3 to 4 weeks from the time you actually start the application, get it finished, to when you could find out if you were admitted, and then you could start whichever term is coming up next. The Family Nurse Practitioner program does have one admission cycle a year. So September 1 of each year, the application opens. There's a January 15th deadline, and that would be to start in June or in August. June start would be for someone who wants to do the 2.5 year full-time, and the August start would be for someone wanting to do the 3.5 year part-time. And the biggest difference there is typically in the part-time, you're going to do 1 course a semester for the first 6 or 7 semesters. And then when you get to the clinical, full and part-time students look the same in that final year, which is why Ashley mentioned that you might need to cut back a little bit on work for that. So you apply online through Nursing CAS, Nursing CAS, and the link is here. And as a couple of people have mentioned, we'll email you the presentation. So you'll have the link to Nursing Cast, but you do submit your official transcripts, 3 references, a resume, and then there's the personal statement. The personal statement, we don't really tell you what to write about. Certainly, depending on the track that you are applying to, I think why you want to do that, how it fits into your future professional goals, or why you want to be a student at Research College of Nursing are what most students will write about. And we do want to know that you can write. There's a lot of writing in graduate school, and so we want to know that students can put a short essay together. So a page or so double spaced, it's is kind of the parameters on the personal statement. So there are eligibility requirements for distance learning students from every state. So currently the states listed on that slide are the states that we are approved to admit students from. So if you are currently on here listening to us and you don't see your state on there, you can email me, let me know which state, and then we can check into what are the requirements for us to become approved in that state. Some of them are very simple, and it's a matter of us submitting a couple of documents. Some of them are very expensive and require lots of paperwork. And so anyway, those are currently the states that we are approved to admit students in. So financial aid, our cost is $5.50 a credit hour. Students can submit a FAFSA if you want to apply for student loans. It's really the only financial aid option for graduate students. Typically, those are unsubsidized loans for students who are at the graduate level. So our FAFSA code is on there if anyone would want to submit a FAFSA. You can get up to $20,500 a year. One course is about $1,600. So on average, most of the courses would be 3 hours. So most students don't need that much student loan. There are alternative loans if you need more, if you're going to cut back on work and you need some for living expenses, then that certainly would be an option. You do have to take 4.5 hours in the fall and spring to qualify for student loans. And at Research College of Nursing, that technically means you probably need to have 2 courses. So if you are on a part-time track, it sometimes is difficult to get 2 courses every semester to qualify for student loans. So that is something you would need to tell your advisor from day one, that you really need student loans in order to pay for graduate school, so they can maybe help you work out a plan where you can take enough hours each semester that you can always qualify for those student loans. And the financial aid numbers on there, if you do have questions, we have a financial aid director who can answer those questions for you. If you are an HCA RN, you do get a tuition discount, 50% if you are full-time, 25% if you are half-time. That discount goes along with your benefits. So if you receive full-time benefits from HCA, which weekend option, you do get full-time benefits, you get the 50%. If you receive the half-time benefits for healthcare, you would receive the 25% discount. And as I mentioned, tuition is $5.50. So if you are an HCA employee, you would pay $2.75 a credit hour. The average cost here is kind of just an average based on the number of hours for each of the programs. But if you're an HCA employee, you can get a Master's of Science from Research for around $12,500. It's a little less for the programs that are fewer hours, and then a little more for the ones that are for the F&P, that's a little more. But so it's a really good option. Most of you should also have tuition reimbursement from your employer. So I encourage you to check your HR manual or with your HR office to see what kind of tuition reimbursement opportunities do I have with my employer. So now I'd like to turn it over to our 3 students Ashley and Sarah and Brandy. And you guys can kind of introduce yourselves. And I don't know if you figured out who's going first, but go for it.
I'll start. Again, I'm Ashley. I'm in the FNP track and planning on graduating in December of 2023. I currently work in the intensive care unit at Research Medical Center. I've been a nurse for almost 4 years now. And I chose Research College of Nursing because I liked the small class sizes and the small, like close-knit kind of characterization of that. And I feel like I can really make good relationships with my professors and my classmates. They respond really fast to my emails. I have a lot of their personal numbers. I text them if I have questions on homework assignments. And so I was a student at KU, and you don't get that at all. So this is huge. So.
All right, I guess I will go next. I am Brandy, and I am doing the nurse educator track. And I started many years ago, many years ago, 20 something years ago in EMS. And as I progressed through, I noticed that the disconnect from graduation to practice was getting bigger and bigger and bigger. And so the only way to handle that is join the education team and figure out, how do we better prepare day one nurses to do this job? How do we close that gap? So that's why I'm here. And I picked research. Essentially, Dr. Roberts sold it when she told me I could pick one or the other. Do I want to go professional development, or do I want to go into academia? I have yet to find a program that even considers them two different things, let alone will customize your education and teach you two different ways. So that's what did it for me. I'm not an HCA employee, so I have to pay full price, but it's still worth it. And currently, I run all of the COVID and emergency response for General Motors at Fairfax. 4 million square feet, about 4,800 employees. And then I am a clinical adjunct instructor for KCK on the side. That's a side gig. I work more than full time. I don't necessarily want to all the time, but that's just how it goes. After graduation, I am just going to keep trekking along and finish the PhD in nursing education. If I stop in between, I'm not starting again. So we just got to keep going, keep swimming. And the goal is essentially, I want to teach, and I want to go back to flying, being a flight nurse. That's how I plan to manage the skill set and stay up to date with what I'm actually teaching folks. And then a couple things that I did for prep going into this program. I actually stopped working full-time in the emergency room so that I could have the flexibility to flip my schedule however I needed to do it to meet the needs of this program. And General Motors was fantastic about saying, we don't care how you do it as long as you do it. So that was one thing that I did in prep, was change jobs so that I could have more time to give to this. One thing that I wish I would have done would have been way better prepared my family for the amount of time that I'm going to have to spend to this program on top of working full time. I think my children are still here somewhere. I do think I seen them last week at some point. They're teenagers, so they don't really seek me out a whole lot, but that's one thing that I wish I would have done. And that's all I got.
Well, that was great to hear. Thank you, Brandy. My name is Sarah Dembeck, and I'm enrolled in the Executive Practice and Healthcare Leadership Program. I have been an RN for 27 years, and so it's taken me a while to get back on the school wagon, and I'm really excited to be here. I really did think a while, obviously, for 26 years before I went back to school as to where I wanted to go. And Research College of Nursing really hit a few points for me. One was I did like the online format and the ability to interact as Ashley said, with small groups of students in a group and have a lot of interaction through dialogue and discussion posts. That's how I learn. As an adult learner, I learn better that way with interactions. I also liked, I was an HCA employee at that time. I was an HCA employee for 21 years, and I really was enticed by the opportunity to have my tuition 50% off at that point, as well as with my facilities reimbursement, as Leslie mentioned, that allowed me to really start up the program free to me, which seemed like a really good opportunity with those 2 discounts. But since then, I have transitioned since I started school. I started in the summer. And so I'm almost through my 3rd semester. I'm going to say I'm a 3rd done. Rebecca might say that's not quite right, but I'm going to try to chunk it into a 3rd. That's how I'm getting through this and really enjoying the program. I now am an Associate Chief Nursing Officer at Vail Health, moved up here in August soon after I started school, and the transition has been wonderful and have felt very supported by all of my professors and students, and really enjoy the feedback I get and I'm learning a lot, and love that I'm getting an application in my current role. I do work full-time in that position and hope when I graduate to continue working in Vail Health in some opportunity. Right now I'm on the executive team, as I mentioned, but there's so many other leadership opportunities, as Rebecca mentioned, that are enticing to me. So I'll continue to just, as I have throughout all of my career, just look at what the next opportunities are, but I'm very happy in what I do. So obviously continuing to work and expand my knowledge is probably my hope. And perhaps in about another 10 years, I would like to look more at community-based. I've been in acute care my whole nursing career, so I'd like to really support the community, perhaps looking in another opportunity to help different avenues to be a consult to them in healthcare, whether that be as a board of director or something in the future. But for now, I'm happy where I am. One thing that I really helped me, I think it was Rebecca's talk with me, is I was really nervous about going back to school. I had not been on a computer in terms of writing papers, because when I went to college, there were not computers, and we went to a computer lab and printed them out. So I was nervous about writing. I was nervous about if I had the skills to write effectively. And so she cheered me on and suggested I get the APA manual book, and I read it cover to cover before I started. Riveting, but I'm glad I did it. I also did a lot of reading of journal articles, specific healthcare ones, to really make sure I was feeling more comfortable. And that skill has definitely come a long way since I started, and I appreciate all the feedback I've gotten. It wasn't as challenging as I thought it would be, and the online format, as for someone who probably was a little bit rusty with that, it went really well, and I'm enjoying that as well. So thank you. And any other questions, feel free to ask.
Thank you, guys. That was really good information. So does anyone have any questions? Feel free to unmute yourself and ask them, or put them in the chat.
Leslie, we do have one, and they specifically asked it about the nurse educator program, but I think it would honestly be like reflective of all of them. Is it possible to go straight from the BSN program into one of the master's programs if they were specifically interested about nursing education?
And the answer is yes.
It is.
We certainly encourage. Oh, you did it, Brandy?
I did.
So we really encourage students to consider not sitting out too long. Historically, if students take too much time, no offense to Sarah's 27 years, but it is more difficult to come back. So if you're going to graduate in May with your BSN, certainly starting in the fall. We usually don't recommend you start in the summer. You need to take NCLEX, get started in your new RN role. But yes, you can start as soon as you graduate. And I see Karen nodding her head, and I think I saw Rebecca nodding. So yes, that is certainly is an option.
And maybe Brandy could speak about that since she did that experience a little bit.
So I did it semi backwards in my life. I started out in EMS, EMT, then medic, and I spent probably 14, almost 15 years as a medic, and then decided, well, I guess it's time to do something else. What's the next step that I do? And that was a nurse. And I was a nurse a year. Then I went back and got my BSN, and then just went right into it from there. So it helped me to not stop, because I know me, and if I stop, I'm done. So I got to keep going. And it was fairly painless going from ADN to BSN to master's.
I'd like to add something on that too. Inevitably, if you've been in nursing very long, or if you're a student and you're out doing clinicals, you will run into a nurse that says, no, you have to get experience before you do this. And nursing is one of the few professions that has had that kind of guardrail on people. And the result has been that the average nurse gets their doctorate in their mid-40s. And so we're losing a lot of productivity and time by having those arbitrary rules. And so there are some you'll hear the statements out there, but it's not empirically supported, and it's not an issue here at Research College of Nursing, at least in the EPHL track, because you will get the experience as a professional nurse while you're going to school. And so I have no problems that you'll be ready for the next step.
Any other questions?
I have a question.
Yes.
This is, do you feel that one of the areas is, I don't want to say easier for employment opportunities, or are they all three about the same, or?
You mean at employment opportunities after you finish the program?
Yes, after you finish, yes.
And maybe Dr. Cahill and Dr. Roberts can weigh in, but I think Dr. Roberts already mentioned the great need that we have for nurse educators. And as a recruiter, I can tell you how many students we turn away because we don't have enough faculty to increase enrollment. And that's happening across the country. There is a shortage of nurses, and I think that means there is a shortage of nurses at all levels, which would include those management levels and those director levels. So I certainly think both of those. I can't imagine that you would not find a job in either of those. The last couple of years, I think the NP market's been a little more saturated. And maybe Ashley, she's kind of nodding her head, so she's kind of heard this. That there may not be as many jobs right now.
Sure.
That said, the majority of our students who graduated last year, I do believe all did find employment. So, but it's a little more challenging.
Okay,
And
thank
I'll
you.
add
They
something to that.
all sound so interesting. Each one has their own interest to me. Just trying to find what way I would like to go.
And I want to add something to that too. On one of the earlier slides, the industry growth for health service managers was 20%, and that was 2019 data. I just saw the 2020 data today, and that 20% growth has jumped up to 32% growth. The age of the top leaders in nursing across the board, be it faculty, administrators, nurses in general, nursing is really got a lot of old people. I can say that because I'm over 50. And so there's a lot of retirements coming. And so I think there's good opportunity in all. I think in certain markets, like Leslie said, the NP may be a bit saturated in certain markets, but many of the people in the EPHL program get promotions while they're still in the program and then get another one after they graduate. So.
This is Karen. I want to reinforce the statement that was made earlier about not waiting too long to move on with your education. I'm not saying in relation to not being able to, get back into it, but to move into these new areas while you're still young. When it was spoken that the typical time that women that people, I'm not saying women, but people get their terminal degree, I got my PhD when I was 45 because I wanted 20 years of mileage out of it. But why wait? I could have started a lot earlier. And then your career is just that much longer, and you have a lot more opportunities to build on previous experience in previous places that you've worked, and your future is a little bit brighter if you start younger, because you just move up the ladder a little faster.
And something else that I didn't mention earlier, we didn't put this on a slide, but we do have postmaster certificates. So
Yes.
we have had EPHL graduates come back and get a nurse educator certificate. So you don't have to complete the core requirements. You complete a certain set of courses that that would enable you to have the proficiencies, the knowledge base for that. And and the opposite can be true. I've had nurse practitioner students come back and get the EPHL or the nurse ed. So those certificates are set up. So if you decided to do the educator and then you got an opportunity to be a nurse leader and you wanted that knowledge base behind it, you can come back and get a certificate, and you're not getting another whole master's. So we do have those in all 3 tracks as well.
The credit hours for certificates is significantly less. It's basically the specialty courses.
Yeah, I think it's somewhere around, it probably averages around 10 or 11, 12.
12.
Yeah.
Thanks for that question, Lisa. Rachel asked one on the chat. So if you wanted to start the EPHL track in August 2022, you could still finish in 2.5 years, or do you have to start at a specific time for that time frame?
Dr. Cahill, you want to take that one?
I will. First, I'll unmute because I kind of had started talking, but I realized I was muted. Yeah, so, when somebody gets admitted, we create a plan. I work individually with the student to create a plan of study that meets their needs. Do you want to start off big? Do you, what's going on in your summers? Do you mind taking 2 classes in the summer? Do you want to take 1 in the summer? But certainly as August 2022 start would be a 2.5 year completion would be an option for that. Yes.
Rachel, did that answer your question? And you can type in, she said, yes, thank you. And again, you can type your questions in the chat or go ahead and open your microphones and ask questions directly as well.
I will also mention, while people are thinking if they have any other questions, is that although the deadline has technically passed to enroll in a course this summer, if you already have your BSN and wanted to take a course, we do have an unclassified student status. So you could reach out to me directly through email, and you fill out a 1-page application. We allow you to go ahead and sign up for 1 course as an unclassified student as you are completing your full application for admission. So if anyone wanted to take a course starting June 1, I think June 1 might be the summer start date, you could reach out to me and we could talk about taking the course this summer. Any other questions? I don't see anything else in the chat. Any of our current students have any great words of wisdom they would like to impart on these students who are thinking about doing what you're doing?
I agree with all of the advice to get started if you can. It's really just an opportunity to grow your career and apply it to whatever you're doing, and makes a big difference. And even though I waited that long, I feel like there's opportunity where I could have done that sooner, and I encourage you to do so.
Great advice. There's another question from Sal in the chat. If an accelerated BSN student plans to apply to the nurse practitioner program, can one be admitted to the program right after graduation, or is RN experience required? And I think we talked about this a little bit, but not in that direct context. So
Right. And
you
so the application period is September 1 to January 15th. So Sal, if you are planning to graduate in December of this year, you can apply then. The start date for NP students is either June or August. So you would have graduated in December, taken NCLEX in January, and presumably started your RN role in February. So you could start in the 2.5-year track in June, or you could start in the 3.5-year in the summer. So you can go ahead and start that application process, even though you haven't technically graduated. And you would be getting experience because your first year is primarily theory coursework. So you would be working as a nurse and you would be getting that experience. And I think either Dr. Cahill or Dr. Roberts kind of mentioned that too, is that all of our programs, most of our students are working. So you're continuing to work on those RN skills and work on your profession of being an RN as you're completing your graduate degree.
And can I add something else, Leslie?
Yes.
I know the year 2020, the year of the nurse, it was a tough year. They've extended it now to 2021. But I think one thing for those of you that are experienced nurses that 2020 has taught us is that things that we thought were impossible are actually possible. And so I think it's a really exciting time in healthcare that I think we're going to start seeing things that we didn't think we could do. I think we're going to start seeing those things accelerated. And I really think that if the last year taught us anything, is that we can do a lot more than we thought we could. I know many hospitals, telemedicine was way down the line, and then poof, within 2 weeks to a month, they were all doing it. And so I think it's a really exciting time to have advanced skills, be it as a nurse practitioner, a leader, or an educator. I just think healthcare is really ripe with opportunity right now coming out of this pandemic.
And I think if we don't have any other questions, I think that is a great note to end on. Thanks, Dr. Cahill. I think that was, yeah, you never know what's going to happen and what skills you need to adapt. So thank you, everyone. My email is on the slide along with Stacy Withers, who's our Director of Financial Aid. Susan Christian Arnold will send out this PowerPoint for you, so you'll have all this contact information and all the information shared. So please reach out to me anytime you have a question. I would be happy to work with you or get you in touch with Dr. Cahill, Dr. Roberts, and then Dr. Enriquez, who is our NP program director. So thank you all. Everybody have a great evening.
Night, thank you.
Thank you.